Say that again? Yes, but they're giving you the pros, they're not telling you the negativity. This is part of the negativity. I will email these to you. And when we have our next meeting, the Homes Isaac Coalition, we will have that out. So, okay? So you got test kits and you can work the line and get your food. Thank you. Anybody else for food? So, greetings. My name is Sandra I. Coleman. I live in Isaac Houses now on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I used to live in Holmes Towers, and I wasn't born, but I was raised in McKinley Houses. I became a public housing activist and organizer when the infill proposal came in 2015 at Holmes Towers. When they wanted to actually take away a playground and put a 50-story building in its place.
The city, aware of its responsibility to the living, built a house, a lot of houses. Houses which ask no questions about a man's race or color or creed.
Well, Governor Hochul signed a law this morning to create the NYC Public Housing Preservation Trust. She says it will unlock millions in federal funding to fast-track long overdue repairs to NYCHA complexes. Tenants will be able to choose if they want to be a part of the program and vote on changes for their developments, what vendors they want to do the repairs, and decide if hired companies are up to standards.
A broader perspective on this is that you have the nation's largest public housing authority with 450,000 tenants and a $40 billion need to upgrade every single apartment. 175,000 apartments, most of which are pretty old. Most of them were built in the 50s and 60s. Some of them go back to the 30s. And there's been a pretty significant lack of upgrade to this.
City, state, and federal government just literally stop investing in public housing. And one of the reasons is, you go back to the white flight, and we could talk about throughout the country. Cities were giving out low interest loans to Caucasian people because at the time, public housing was segregated throughout the country. But when they started giving the loans and people were able to move into upstate in different places, and then more Black and brown people moved into public housing, the disinvestment eventually, started happening.
So I just need for you to list out some of the things that you were telling me about. I know you told me about the chipped paint. Well, my name is Yvette Rouget. I work for the Brownsville Community Justice Center under the Center for Court Innovation. We need more money going into repairs. I mean, I have clients who have no sink, no tub. They literally cannot cook, no gas for 8 months. That's really deplorable living conditions.
Section 8 is a federally funded housing assistance program, one of several such programs here at HACLA. Also known as the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Section 8 helps very low-income families and certain individuals like the elderly or persons with disabilities afford decent, safe, and sanitary housing on the private market.
And so the idea of it is that they need money. And the way that they were going to approach this is to shift as many of these units out of Section 9, that is just traditional public housing, into Section 8. With the Preservation Trust, NYCHA continues to manage the building with the other program, which is called Rental Assistance Demonstration, otherwise known as RAD.
Hi, Mary. How are you? Are you still with the Tenant Council?
Yes.
I just received this letter saying my unit was going through RAD. What's RAD?
That's RAD. It stands for the Rental Assistance Demonstration. Do you remember when my building was renovated last year? That's RAD.
Oh, so my building would be just like this? That would be nice.
That's another 60,000 apartments. They're going to move that. Like, all of those apartments come out of Section 9, going to Section 8. And in that case, they're privately managed.
When we speak about RAD, PACT, and the trust, it's difficult for me to separate myself, professional, from a person who lives in the neighborhood and is affected by it.
I'm sorry.
Right? So the client's not coming down because emotionally right now, she's in a really bad place. So I'm going to management to advocate for her. But this is some of the stuff I do on a daily basis. If clients call me and say they're falling apart, they really can't do it anymore, emotionally, they're just, their mental health is suffering, like they're falling apart, I will actually get up and run out into community. So even though some of it is not what I'm supposed to do, I can't ignore it when I have someone who would be able to help her.
Right to love. Hi, you come down? You want to pick up some food and stuff? How are you? How y'all doing? Do you need any test kits? Do y'all live in the community?
I have a lot of test kits.
Okay. Do you know about the RAD and PACT? Like the RAD, PACT, and the Preservation Trust? The blueprint. It used to be the blueprint, now it's the Preservation Trust. We have to vote no. I'm an activist organizer. We stopped the infill proposal on this side before. I used to live in Holmes and now I'm in Isaacs. But they wanted to build a 50-story building and take away the park. In between there.
Oh my God.
That was in 2015. It was a 4-year fight. I was part of it. I was the beginning of it.
My issue with this is that with both RAD and with the Preservation Trust, the New York City Housing Authority continues to be the owner of the property. They still own the buildings. Thus, they are ultimately liable for whatever happens to those buildings. And so at this point, I don't see it as privatization, but there is another aspect to this that I think is of real concern, and that is transparency.
Hello? Sade?
Hey,
Yeah, I just left management office, okay? They told me that they're working on the D lines right now, and they're not up to the C line, but they are aware that there are, the reason why the plumber hasn't come is because there are gas outages. And they cannot tell you when they're gonna come. They only know that they're working on it. Do you need any support services right now for how you're feeling and what you're going through? Because I can also get you a referral to NYCPP, the New York City Family Therapy Group. They really do offer like wraparound services.
Okay.
All right. So when I get back in the office, I'll make those 2 referrals for you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Sade. And I'm really sorry that you're going through this, Sade. I really am. Okay. But I'm going to do my best. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right, sweetie pie.
All right.
Ciao. Don't give up on me yet.
You're in a NYCHA development, and you have a heat outage in the wintertime. NYCHA is required to make that public. So there's a whole set of data that you can see in that development that the heat's been out for 3 days or whatever it is. Okay, that's in a NYCHA development. You put that development into RAD or the trust, you can't see that.
So the Homes Isaac Coalition, we actually do meetings on the first Wednesday of the month here at 7 p.m. So, it's hard. They don't let us really advertise. So threaten to evict us and all that. But we might start putting stuff on the doors. But we're going to have this literature out there and speak to people. Because when the vote comes, we have to vote no. Because you go from Section 9 to Section 8, which you'll have less protections. With Section 8, the vouchers, you can't take the vouchers with you. It stays with the apartment. You know what I mean? We're going to have private management and all that stuff. You don't want that.
10% of the tenants of each building is all that is required to vote on whether they want to switch over to the trust, which for me is just like a really small amount. The development I live in, the buildings are pretty short. We only have 6 floors. But across the street in Tilden, down the block at Van Dyke, they have, 15 and upwards of 15 floors. If you only require 10%, that just doesn't seem fair. That means like You've got 100, 100 people in the building. You only want 10 of them to decide what's best for the other 90.
And the One NYCHA podcast, we air on Sundays. I gotta get my nails. One of my nails are broke, but that's okay. I'm out here working. So this, and I'm gonna give you this. Oh, y'all registered to vote?
Good.
Okay, perfect. And you can find us on Facebook. And we talk about public housing issues and politics and stuff like that. So it's really good podcast.
Hi, my name is Janine Latimer Henderson, and I live in Ocean Bay Houses in Far Rockaway, which is now privatized by RAD. If I had a choice, I would have loved for this to remain public housing. I would pack my bags and run the public housing.
Coincidentally, Ocean Bay was one of the NYCHA developments that got totally whacked by Hurricane Sandy because it's right on the water. It's out in the Rockaways. So they were in a position where they really needed to do some serious upgrade. And 2016, they come in with RAD and they did some pretty serious upgrade. They're like the apartments really look different than they did before RAD.
You know, they say that this program is everything, but it's really not. Don't believe the hype. Okay, they come in, they do a little fixing. Your stuff that you get is not what you expect. Don't get me wrong, it looks nice, but then all of a sudden, then here comes the mold we started getting from them doing this in our apartments.
The issue with evictions is you have to do an apples to apples comparison. You have to say there have been X number in Ocean Bay. There were X number of evictions per year in Ocean Bay, and then when the Wavecrest people came in under RAD, there were X number of evictions under them.
People were getting evicted at one point. They were doing illegal evictions. They were locking people out of their apartments. They were all, people getting threatening letters from them. What I can't understand for the life of me is if you do a lease, to my understanding, leases were once a year. With them, it's twice a year. Why is that? Why are we filling out 2 leases, one with them and one for Section 8 or for NYCHA?
There's 2 parts to this. One of them is really the New York City Housing Authority. When you're in a position where you're going to maybe face eviction, there's a whole procedure. And the procedure is they send you a notice. You don't respond, you keep not paying your rent. At some point they go to court, but they don't always go to court. So they try to work these things out before there's an eviction. Sometimes you're evicted before they even get to court.
Oh, we're gonna hire the people that live here from the community and stuff like that. Yeah, they'll be the first ones to clean it up. But then they'll start picking you off one by one, terminating you, firing you, making up stories that are fake to get rid of you, and then they bring all their people in that they want to have work here.
The RAD eviction appears to be higher, but it's not necessarily true. On the other hand, we don't know exactly what's going on with all of this, because once you go into RAD, you're kind of out of sight. You can't really see everything that's happening.
So let's just say hypothetically, if I was the chair, it'll be good that I was a chair because I'm a NYCHA resident. I'm living it, so I understand, what the conditions are, and I would make sure that people are listened to.
If I get the repairs and the money comes in and is run like other government agencies and we get all of these things, at what cost for the residents? Because I don't know any government agency that puts money into something without wanting something back.
But I believe if we stick together and we fight, we can preserve public housing. And I've been doing this, fight for about seven years or so now.
Brownsville is a community of good mornings. It's one of the things I love about Brownsville. There has never been a day in my life I have stepped out of my home that someone has not said, "Good morning, Miss Yvette." Never. I see you, you're like me, we live in the same community. We're a village. Brownsville is a village of people, and we have that village mentality. So acknowledging me with a good morning really means I see you. Good morning. Yeah. It's that warmth, it's that connection, it's that human-centered thing that Brownsville has, that when you leave, you just don't find, you don't find that same type of connection